No buys, just vibes. And if you're still rocking with us after that corny intro, we appreciate you, because on today's episode of the Regression to the Mean podcast, we have our top 45 running backs. And I'm like 95% certain it's 45, but these guys will gut check me as we go in the episode. Top 45 running backs here for week 8 of the NFL season. I'm your host, Sean Moran. I'm joined by my good friends, my fellow co-hosts, my fellow knowers of ball, Keegan Thompson and Aiden Holler. Boys, we get to see each other this weekend. Something big's happening, you know?
Yeah, I just want to take a pause here. I've pulled out a bevy for this week's recording. Sean's got a bevy. We are cheersing to Sean's last recording as a non-married podcast host.
Yeah, I'm getting married. I'm tying the knot. It is official. Now I'm going to get to make jokes about my wife wanting me to divorce me because of too much NFL football, stuff that dreams have been made of. So I've graduated into that territory.
Your Twitter
here
now is going to take over. Now you can finally start making some Chuck Bass level tweets.
Yes. Yeah. Well, he's in hollowed ground. Chuck Bass is another level here. But yes, I am going to be offline, as the folks in the tech world would say, starting tomorrow, and I will be back in the saddle next Thursday. I will be So I'm actually going to be passing it over to these two lovely gentlemen. We were not able to do a waivers episode. I apologize. It wasn't in the cards. A lot was going on. So we will have our regular scheduled programming for the rest of this week and for next week. So we are going to have our rankings episode for wide receivers and running backs drop Friday and Saturday, like our normal schedule. And then we will have the first ever episode with just Keegan and Aiden doing waivers next Monday. So look for that feed Monday night or Tuesday morning. But Keegan's going to host, and I'm going to be a little insecure. My job's going to get taken. I don't know how to feel about it. But we will be getting you waiver recommendations regardless. So I digress. How are we doing, fellas? Are we feeling good? Feeling ready to talk ball? Aiden, you look ready to talk ball. The Bears, they're back this week.
We're back. We're playing Marcus Mariota, so
he ducked. Jaden ducked, right?
He's ducking the grind. He's
Donald ducking
us.
Yeah,
Jaden
so Joel Embiid of the NFL already in his rookie year. He's ducking the competition.
Yeah, no, I don't care who plays QB. I'm pretty confident we're going to win either way. So,
spicy.
Yeah, it's on to DC, Marcus or Jaden. Don't care. Feeling good coming out of the bye. It feels good to be a little cocky about my team. It's been a while.
Yeah, you can feel a lot cockier than the 49ers. That's for certain. And the Jets, that's for certain as well. Now, I'm dunking on the both of us here, Keegan. It's not been pleasant. Not been pleasant. When the emergence of Russie happens against your team, that must have been infuriating.
My 13th reason why, for sure. That was bad.
Oh no! You know, he was the lead singer of Wallows. Okay, very talented guy. This is quickly going off the rails in the intro. Today's episode is pretty straightforward. If you have never watched one of our rankings episode, we go tier by tier. I've got 5 tiers here of the top 45 running backs. Again, I'll go through each tier, call out some guys that I'm higher or lower on versus Fantasy Pros expert consensus rankings. Through each tier, I'll pass it over to Keegan and Aiden. They'll give their thoughts on the rankings. They'll call out some guys they're interested in this week. They'll be keeping an eye on. The idea is to kind of give you a comprehensive snapshot of all the most important running back plays in week 8. As always, our rankings are powered by expected fantasy points and fantasy points production, along with implied team total rank and what the opposing defense does against the position. So on this episode, we'll have the RTM score, which is basically a composite score of the best matchups essentially of the week or best plays. And I've also created kind of a rudimentary projection system. So we now have RTM projections. Bear with us. We're going to play around with them a bit. We're still trying to make these work. And I'm still trying to balance new expected usage versus old expected usage. That's why somebody like Tank Bigsby we'll get into doesn't necessarily look great, but with RB1 usage, Tank Bigsby's smash plays we'll get into. As always, the link to our rankings are here in the show notes. So feel free to access those. We give those to you for free. Enjoy them, use them. We want to make sure we can give you an edge. We are recording this Wednesday night. So we've just had one batch of injury news come out. So we don't know who's starting and who's playing.
News.
Yeah,
already. And some
when you
weird
have
news.
a
That'll be more wide receiver news for sure. But there's a
Yeah.
couple running back stuff.
When you have a player on jury duty and you get the underdog jury duty notice, you know it's going to
Oh
be a
my
fucking
God,
weird
dude.
week. You know it's going to be a pretty weird week, all things considered. But this is Wednesday. So again, comment on this episode throughout the weekend. These guys will get back to you with an updated sense of the rankings, but just want to preface that we're recording this Wednesday evening. Before we dive in, though, I'm assuming that this is probably somebody's first time clicking on one of our thumbnails, maybe the second. They're trying to feel us out, see if it's worth maybe spending a little bit of their time with us. If this is somebody's first time engaging with us, Aiden, what should the people do at home?
What should you do on the brink of Sean's wedding and you have stumbled upon our channel? Go ahead, sit down, enjoy the rankings. Sean has been working on his model, call it what you will, his algorithm throughout throughout this year, getting better and better each week. So just enjoy the show, hang out with the three of us. Gonna be some good banter, gonna be some good takes. We'll probably butt heads a little bit, but just enjoy the show. Click around in the description if you really want. Sean puts it all down there, so there's no need to hear us talk for 40 minutes. If you don't want to, you can just click around and see exactly what you want to. So comment, like, subscribe, whatever you're feeling for Mr. Sean Moran and his upcoming tying of the knot.
Enough about the tying of the knot. Expert pandering, though. Again, you should subscribe because it's going to be a wedding, right? Like, that's how we should do it. Leverage, build rapport, good stuff.
Yeah, help him pay for the bar he's going to rent out for all of us. Yeah. Every subscription goes towards the bar tab that Sean will be graciously footing for his DeGen friends this weekend. So
it is an open bar. We're going to have a good time. It is an open bar. And I'm paying the cover charge at the after party. So, it's going to be a good time. Okay. Outside of that, if you were complaining about a long intro, I don't care. We have timestamps. Skip it. I've heard multiple people complain about our intros. Kick rocks, bro. I timestamp this. It is not easy to do. It takes me 10 minutes of meticulous time to timestamp these episodes. I know you don't care, but I timestamp it for you, so don't complain about our long intros.
I just want you to go in and timestamp this video as Breece Hall for the intro, so they're forced to listen. But now,
gotcha.
As a segue.
Breece might be showing his way up here on the thumbnail, because my goodness, I've got Breece Hall here at running back 1. So my first tier of guys, I've got seven stud running backs. Set it and forget it. I mean, all these top 12 guys are set it and forget it. It's the running back position. What are we talking about? But I have my top 7 plays here in tier 1. I've got running back Breece Hall at 1, Saquon at 2, Kenneth Walker at 3, Derrick Henry at 4, Joe Mixon at 5, Kyren Williams at 6, and Bijan Robinson at 7. In terms of ECR, Breece Hall, absolutely bonkers usage since Nathaniel Hackett got fired. They're over it
for sure.
They're over it. They're crazy. Braylon, he's gone. It is the Breece Hall show, and it's pretty awesome if you drafted Breece Hall. So I didn't necessarily think that was going to happen when Robert Saleh got fired, but hey, shout out Woody Johnson for that one, for the Breece shares. We appreciate it. Kenneth Walker, I've got him 1 spot ahead of expert consensus rankings. DK is trending towards not playing at this point. They've already said he will not practice Thursday. They're holding out hope he practices Friday. Sprained MCL. They are playing Buffalo. They probably need Metcalf, but if Metcalf doesn't play, I think it's going to be a heavy Kenneth Walker game. Buffalo has gotten absolutely eviscerated by opposing running backs on the ground, and my goodness, Kenneth Walker has a workhorse role. Outside of Kenneth Walker and Breece Hall, have to call out our guy Kyren Williams. It's him and Derrick Henry, baby. It's him and Derrick Henry when it comes to touchdowns. Kyren has scored a touchdown in 9 straight games. You're going to be listening to this on Friday after the game already happened. So I'm very curious to know if I look like a fool, but Kyren going up against the 24th ranked Minnesota rush defense to opposing running backs could be tough sledding, but man, his projection is screaming must start. I'll pause here. Aiden, you've got the ladder bet in here. You got Saquon. You got Bijan. Who are you thinking here in tier 1 that's speaking your language?
Yeah, it's actually the last guy you mentioned that I want to call out. I think everyone was pretty hard on Bijan the first couple of weeks, and it was, pretty deserving. But
hand up,
he's looked awesome the last 2 weeks. We are back-to-back 20 burgers, 3 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks, starting to catch a couple balls a game. He's quietly up to running back 6 on the season, just 3 points back of Breece for running back 4. So it was a little slow out of the gates, but Bijan's kind of here. and, firmly a running back one going forward. So I like the matchup. Tampa Bay just is in a tough spot. You've got the injuries on offense. The defense has been pretty banged up all year. So another pretty advantageous matchup. I see him keeping up that kind of top 5 running back production this week. That's really my favorite guy. And then Derrick Henry. I can't believe the ladder lives on. I actually think it might happen, dude. We're
every week.
We're half.
You could have been a millionaire, bro.
Yeah, you could have been making some serious money. You're a coward.
We're halfway through this season, and Derrick Henry ladder is alive. He's 8 for 8, right? Have they had a bye yet?
No, it's 7 for 7.
7 for 7.
He's going for 8 this week.
Going for 8 of it. Yeah, they haven't had a bye, right? Yeah, so what a stud, dude. Yeah, those are the only 2 guys I want to call, though. But Bijan is getting the extra love from me this week.
Who would have thought that the greatest running back of our generation joining the Ravens would work?
Me?
Yeah,
who would have thought it? Who would have thought? Because plenty of really smart people that we all respect kind of faded him and overthought that one. It just goes to show you draft old running backs. That's what we do now. Look at Joe Mixon, Derrick Henry. Saquon's not that old, but kind of old, man. You got some of these other guys in this tier that are older that are crushing. So it's fun. Drafting receivers, that's been a really fun proposition this season. Keegan, before we get to tier 2, anyone here that you want to call out before we jump?
Yeah, sorry if you can hear my dog
Sup,
barking
Tex?
right now. Tex is barking about something. But you mentioned it when we first opened up the tier is the usage for Breece Hall. No bias, but I'm going to pump the Breece Hall shares. But basically, since Ulrich took over and Todd Downing started calling plays, he's averaging 84.2% snap share, which is only behind Kyren. He's received 83.3% of the backfield rush attempts, which would basically lead the RB position if that was over the whole season. He's handled 5 out of 6 of the team's backfield opportunities inside the red zone. I mean, 67% route share. Only CMC has ever topped that route share percentage. I know it's a small sample, but over any season since 2021. And then also 20.3% target share over the past 2 games for Breece Hall.
Insane.
The usage is absolutely bonkers. And then the next guy I want to talk about is Joe Mixon in this tier. You already highlighted Henry, highlighted Kyren, highlighted Bijan. Kenneth Walker's been obviously a freak with the ball in his hands, but Joe Mixon, 3 full games he's played this season, 26 fantasy points at minimum in 3 full games he's played. He's averaging 26.8 points in those matches. In those games, he's had 81% of expected fantasy point share at the running back position in those 3 games. Slowick is so committed to the run game, it's almost default. It's almost a fault. On 10 first and 10s last week.
It's annoying.
They ran the ball 9 times out of 10 on 10 first and 10 opportunities in week 7. And that's annoying for the Texans wide receiver offense, but it's great for Joe Mixon. And this is why they're so committed to it when he plays. When Joe Mixon is healthy, they run the ball 60.6% of the time in the red zone in his full 3 healthy games. And when he's not, they're running at about 40.7% of the time. So if Joe Mixon's playing a full healthy game, you can guarantee that he's getting red zone touches, and the Texans are going to focus on running the ball. Usage is bonkers. He's kind of turning back the clock, although maybe we said on the last pod, I just think Cincinnati maybe wasn't using Joe Mixon the way he needed to be used.
They just ran out of shotgun the entire time, and it was like just Joe Mixon running in mud, and now it's like
hand off Joe Mixon. Here you go. Good luck.
Yeah. It's like, hey, Joe doesn't feel comfortable snapping it under center, so we're just gonna,
our quarterback's thumb is hurt. Can you run it from back here?
Dude, okay. Remember at the beginning of the offseason when I was like, why draft Saquon when you can draft Joe Mixon? I did not think that they would literally be top 5 running backs each. I thought they'd both be like top 15.
It's not far off. You'd be just fine with either.
Yeah. I was wrong in the sense that I thought Saquon would be mid and so would Joe Mixon, when it turns out both would just be elite. So the thesis was there.
It's pretty interesting to me looking at this tier of running backs because the wide receiver injuries have been so brutal this year. But Breece is a first-round guy. Depending on your home league, Saquon is like into first, beginning of second. Henry is almost a 3rd-round guy. Mixon's a 4th. Kyren's a 2nd. And Bijan's a 1st. So you have this mix of like they're playing exactly where we want them to be, which is great for Bijan and Breece. But then you have the Henry and the Mixon and the Kenneth Walker just playing way above your expectations where you drafted. Great year for running backs.
All these guys have hit so far. The first-round running backs, like the top 12 running backs have hit. I mean, I guess maybe
have been landmines, absolute landmines.
I can't talk about it. I can't talk about the Rock God. I can't do it. I have a fantasy team that literally had Godwin and Rashee Rice. I was like just counting my winnings already, but I digress. Okay, we're going to move on to tier 2 here. Running backs 8 through 15. I've got Jonathan Taylor returning to the lineup here. He practiced this Wednesday, so we'll see if he plays, but he did practice. It sounds like he will go. But I've got Jonathan Taylor here at 8, Jahmyr Gibbs 9, Kareem Hunt 10, Aaron Jones 11, Josh Jacobs 12, Devin Achane 13, DeAndre Swift 14, and Tank Bigsby 15. So guys, I want to call it Jonathan Taylor. Guys, if he plays, they're going to give him 80% of the snaps. And Houston's got a good rush defense, but JT is just got one of the best roles in all of fantasy. So I could see him doing quite well if he were to play.
I also think with JT and A-Ridge playing together, it's like a better together scenario. Like you eliminate JT, but you have Anthony Richardson. Like obviously the threat of quarterback runs is there. But when you have both of them in the backfield together, I feel like that's way harder to defend. Like they become a more multi-dimensional offense, and we can just forget about what Anthony Richardson's doing as a passer right now. But if it's Anthony Richardson and Trey Sermon or Tyler Goodson in the backfield, like you're not as really threatened by the running game. No. But if it's Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson together, that's when the magic starts to happen for Jonathan Taylor and A-Rich. So
I agree. And Gibbs, nothing against Monty, we'll talk about later, but Monty got banged up, and Gibbs, that was one of the best runs I've ever seen. I mean,
he's so fast. He's so fast.
What's so funny about him is we all thought he was going to be this elite receiver. He's not that good of a receiver, but he might be one of the best rushers just like in the league. What his burst, his vision, and the way that he can make guys miss in short areas is ridiculous. It's truly insane how athletic Jahmyr Gibbs, and he's a smash. Even though Tennessee's been pretty good, man. I mean, this guy's a star, and if it skews even 70-30 with Monty banged up, I mean, Gibbs probably should be a little bit higher. When Gibbs gets a full complement of touches, I think he's the RB1. In my opinion, he was when Monty was hurt last year. So we'll see how that plays out. Got to call out Kareem Hunt. Completely missed this. I texted you guys this earlier in the week. You know, we're always talking about who the league winner is. And last year it was very obvious. It was like Puka, Kyren. Those are your league winners. You got him off the waivers in week 1. Kareem Hunt's your sleeper league winner. I watched him just stab me in the chest over and over again against the 49ers. This guy was literally falling forward for 5 yards every single time he touched the ball. It's just real football. He looks amazing. Now, I don't know if he can keep it up because he is older, but guys, Kareem Hunt's easy top 12 play moving forward with this role.
I had a quick note about him, which is like why he's so important to the people who did pick him up in fantasy, because we've been searching and hunting all offseason for like the difference maker in hunting. There you go.
That was good, Keegan.
I'm glad you picked that up. For the difference maker in the Kansas City Chiefs offense, because we thought they were going to go back to the old days, and it was Rashee Rice, but now that he's out, Kareem Hunt is the most valuable offensive player in the Kansas City Chiefs offense right now.
Straight
up.
It's
a 23.8% market share of the team's expected fantasy points. And not a single Chief on the roster has higher than 17.5%. I mean, he's almost getting a fourth of their expected fantasy points at the running back position, being like a journeyman running back. It's silly, but it's working. I mean, he's so valuable right now. So kudos to everybody who picked him up on the waiver wire. I was a Carson Steele slappy on accident.
I was a no slappy. I was like, they're just going to air it out. Like, no, it's a ground and pound team. This is 5 yards, fall forward for 5 yards every single play team. Man, I like Kareem Hunt really has been unreal. RB1 overall usage in week 7 in terms of expected fantasy points per game.
He's averaging 20 fantasy points per game since week 5.
And I have him on no teams. Here I am.
Yeah, I got 0. I messed that one up. I got left with Samaje Perine, so that was fun.
I just got so tired of Kareem Hunt. People, because you always have people in your league that draft Kareem Hunt every year on the Browns, and you're like, it's always the same Kareem Hunt guys. And I was like, guys, quit the dream already. Oh, those guys won. They were right to do that.
They got us.
Aaron Jones, just doing top 12 Aaron Jones shit. That just seems to be what he does.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it for a second.
I mean, geez Louise.
Right now, among RBs with 70 rush attempts, he leads all of them in yards after contact per attempt with 3.3 yards. He's got a 77% snap share in his first game back, and he out-targeted Chandler 3-0. In his last 3 full games, 18.3 carries a game, 4.7 targets a game, 20.7 expected fantasy points per game, and 21.4 fantasy points per game. He's borderline a top 10 play. I see you have him at 11, which is perfect in my mind, but like borderline top 10 running back play until proven otherwise.
I mean, it's all in line with usage and production. He's just doing Aaron Jones shit.
Gets the usage and produces at the usage, and
he's got a juicy matchup against the Rams. Josh Jacobs it's starting to look there. I mean, he's passing the eye test.
It's happening with Josh Jacobs.
Yeah,
it is starting to happen. We just got to be patient. But the last 2-3 weeks have been super encouraging.
He just needs to start scoring touchdowns. The usage has been top 12 so far.
First career receiving touchdown last week. That was exciting.
It was a pretty sweet.
I can't believe it's his first career receiving.
I think it's 200 catches.
Most receptions ever without a TD.
Yeah,
to start a career.
And it was a little dinky, that little dinky pat, I guess you call that a screen. I don't know.
He's a good receiver. He's like a good pass catcher. He's caught like 50 balls. Yeah, like every year.
Guys,
Achane.
Wow.
Are you going to talk Achane?
Exactly.
Okay.
I was going to say I
just want to talk
Achane
for a second. Yeah,
Please.
It's time. If you've held your bags, if you've waited, the time is now for Devon Achane. I mean, I even had a note in here, because this video will come out before the weekend. Try and trade for him. I'm telling you, try and trade for Achane right now. Submit a trade in. I don't care what you give up. This is top 5 player usage in fantasy football. This is not the Achane we saw last year either. In all 5 healthy games he's played, he's led the backfield in carries. He's received 80% of the backfield's rush attempts inside the 10-yard line, which is something we didn't foresee happening. He was also averaging a 15.4% target share in those healthy games he's playing, which is ahead of Waddle. If you take that number and apply it to last year's Tua offense when he's healthy, that's 5 receptions or 5 targets a game for a running back. I mean, it's the only players that average more target share right now than him are Breece and Kamara. Achane is a weapon that's
that was
fully
the
loaded,
thesis.
Ready to go.
That was the thesis. My fear, I'm just really worried about Tua. I know that sounds like I just if he gets hurt,
right now.
If he gets hurt, no. I'm not talking about the moral thing. We talk fantasy. If you want to talk, talk morals. It's again, I'm not going to talk what's right or wrong. This dude gets to do whatever the fuck he wants. It's football.
Okay.
I'm just worried about how bad this offense look without Tua. And I do think though, if they come out and they crush this week with Tua, you know how much I love Achane. I'd low-key be tempted to sell because I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with an offense that completely falls apart from every single facet of this entire. Essentially, they have one of the worst O-lines in football, and they build this offense where it's ball goes out in 2 seconds or less. You throw
awesome.
You throw it into a window, whether or not it's open, and Tua's just fuck it, I'm throwing it there. And that's why he throws some of the worst picks in football, because he's not he's just throwing it into spots within 2 seconds. That's just all he's doing. And someone like Tyler Huntley probably is not comfortable doing that. It's a really unique way to play quarterback. So they've built this whole entire Tua offense. So when you remove Tua from it, they can't run this offense. It just becomes screens to Jonnu, which makes no sense. But I whatever. My best ball teams are happy about the Jonnu Smith usage. But I think Achane's going to be great with Tua back. I'm worried. I'm worried about how long this stays a thing. I know Tua's not retiring. He's not retiring until he's in a wheelchair. Just like Tua, right?
No fear.
Okay, so let's talk.
Oh yeah,
let's talk Tank Bigsby before we get to tier 3. Keegan, you're our resident tank guy. Are you guys both tank guys?
I'm a tank guy.
Okay, we got 2 tank guys. Is this guy just
he's a dog?
I mean,
he has
what a transformation. What a transformation.
Got, such a unique combination of speed and size. Just absolutely running through people right now, and he's getting rewarded, man. He's got 2 multi-touchdown games in 2 of his last 3. The game against Chicago didn't do much, but was absolute force last week in London. So a lot of people might have even missed it, as they were stuck in London for 2 straight weeks, just abroad. But man, Tank Bigsby's an absolute dog. My only fear is that Jacksonville could go down and go down quite a bit early to Green Bay, which isn't a great game script for him. He has 2 targets this year for 1 catch. So a negative game script probably favors ETN and Tiernas Johnson. So, like, we need this game to be good. The Jags actually have looked better, too. Like, the offense looked light years better last week, which was cool.
Much better.
Even if it is the Patriots, I'm just going to kind of take it and my Christian Kirk bags. But if this is a close game, there's no reason why Tank Bigsby can not only score again, but give us, like fringe running back one upside on a weekly basis.
Fellas, you nailed it's the sell window for Tank Bigsby.
You think so?
In my mind.
No, I'm not doing it.
Because we saw what happened when they were down in a negative game script and Dearness Johnson outsnapped him 55% to 26.7%. But they've got Green Bay this week. Then they're at Philly. Then they're versus Minnesota. Then they're at Detroit. And then they're at Houston. That's their next run of games.
Fuck. But what if the Jags just start getting better? Like,
Trevor's sure, yeah. Would you rather bet on that, though? Like, would you rather bet on the Jags getting back to, like, normal competitive football? Or would you rather, like, kind of take the ransom with Tank Bigsby right now?
I don't think you're going to get much for Tank Bigsby is my biggest fear.
You might not, but if you're playing Tank Bigsby, you're probably either, like, playing him because you have an RB injury or, like, maybe he's your third or fourth option. You've just been flexing him, I don't have a Tank Bigsby team where he's my RB2 right now.
I do. It's bad.
Okay.
I have a team I'd kill for Tank Bigsby on right now. That's the Devin Singletary RB2 league. My thing with Tank is he guys, he cannot play on pass downs. This isn't just like Durnist, he's got some juice. No, like he is a liability in pass.
They don't he's want him out there.
His reps are god awful in passing situations. Now, again, considering how well he's developed as a player, I think by year 3, boom, Tank's going to be great. But he's a liability out there in pass pro. He cannot be out there in passing situations. So Keegan nailed it. He's just such a good runner, and he's explosive. He breaks off these long, explosive touchdown runs. And when you can create explosions, oh my God, explosives in the run game. If you can do that in the run game, you're cooking with gas. Like that is the special ingredient that will get you on the field. So I feel confident about Tank. Now, if you can sell Tank for a running back plus, you should probably do that. But man, if you got Tank off waivers and you're already playing him in your starting lineup, like shit, man. Probably just roll it. It's like the J.K. Dobbins thing I'll get to in a second. Everyone's like, sell J.K. Dobbins. I'm like, well, why would you sell someone who's like a high-end RB2 that you drafted in the 10th round? Like,
ride the wave.
Why? Yeah, just deal. Like, who are you getting a better value on? Are you going to trade for a receiver who's going to have his knee explode? No, like just keep J.K. Dobbins.
I get the sell, but I don't think the value's high enough on him.
Fair point.
Unless you can absolutely just like trick the ETN owner into like,
just wanted to call attention to that.
It's true
because it's a gauntlet.
Totally.
Hey, Keegan did say, "Is this the buy window on Deontay Johnson last week?" So he might be on this shit. I will say because Deontay's shares are infinitely awful right now. He's not playable this week. But that's for receivers. We'll get to that.
The sell window, by the way, not the buy window of Deontay. Yes.
I sometimes have this weird dyslexia where I just flip shit for some reason. Okay. Tier 3 running backs, 16 to 25. I've got Javonte Williams, Jordan Mason, James Cook, James Conner, double James, Alvin Kamara, J.K. Dobbins, Chuba Hubbard, David Montgomery, Tony Pollard, Brian Robinson. So this is the tier I moved everybody down because I moved Tank Bigsby up. Guys, I'm super high on this week with Javonte Williams. We're at the point in the year where Javonte Williams is a must start. They're coming off the mini bye. They're playing Carolina.
I got skull fucked in multiple leagues by Javonte. I'm in such a bad place. Like seeing his name actually like just made me upset.
He's
out of nowhere.
He's kind of must start because they're going to play Carolina, whose run defense sucks, who's going to be playing Bryce Young, and Denver's defense is really good. So they're going to get Pat Surtain back. Yeah,
it's a great spot. Great spot. But you're going to fire him up and he's going to look like Green Bay Packers Eddie Lacy, like just awful. It's going to be bad and it. And we're going to be back here next week. Like I can't believe it.
I think the Javonte sell window will really get high after next week. But this is a good spot because Audric Estimate continues to fumble. and Jaleel McLaughlin's like 180 pounds. So this is
There's
just
no one
everything.
else challenging him for touches and
Nope.
like taking advantage of them. Yeah.
Estime is not taking it seriously. He's like doing his full-blown Tank Bigsby right now. Like literally, he's just going full.
One of you sent it. It was like, I got a sneaky suspicion this is an Estime game.
Oh, yeah. Who tweeted that?
I sent that to you guys. I was like, guys, this guy needs to touch grass if he thinks this is going to be an Estime game. Jordan Mason, this is a bounce back spot. I've been saying it for 3 weeks in a row, but everything screaming here is just must start against Dallas. We will see where this goes with the 49ers offense, but this is a really good spot for Jordan Mason. Other guys, Alvin Kamara, broken hand, broken ribs, broken offense. Rough. How have the mighty have fallen with Kamara?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Talked about Dobbins. This is a weekly usable RB2 with upside. A lot of people try and paint this picture that he's like regressing every other. Guys, no, he's just not in that good of an offense. Like sometimes he has good weeks, sometimes he has bad weeks. He doesn't necessarily catch the ball that much.
Yeah,
like sometimes that's just the nature of the beast. Chuba Hubbard is way down in my ranks. Have fun with Bryce Young this week, Chuba. And Brian Robinson, Tony Pollard, two of the best roles in fantasy right now. They're crushing it if you took these guys in the 8th and 9th round. Aiden, before we get to tier 3, anyone you want to call out here?
Yeah, you mentioned the posse. Absolutely elite usage with Tajay banged up, obviously. I think they're going to be losing in this game, but that's not a huge issue for him personally. He continues to get targets out of the backfield. He had 6 of them last week. They weren't very good. He only got 2 of them as it actually felt like Will Levis was trying to get him killed. But
Mason Rudolph,
you're right.
That's how bad the quarterbacks are. You just like don't even know you're like, who's that tall, shitty white quarterback? Oh, okay.
No, the worst was the line moved a point in favor of Tennessee once they benched Will Levis for Rudolph. So that's telling if going to your backup moves the line. But no, I still like him. You know, he played 90% of the snaps, continues to be a pretty much mortal lock week to week for 12 plus touches. So I like Pollard in this tier. Even David Montgomery, I still like. He's gonna play, and this Detroit offense is just like ungodly efficient. So like my 2 guys that I like in this tier personally are kind of near the bottom in Monty and Tony Pollard personally.
Just the injury with Monty. That's the only reason I have him down.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
You have to be cognizant if someone's banged up. Like he could be fine, but like he has a knee issue. It sounds like he's going to play through it, but he's a warrior.
Today,
he's probably fine. But my whole thing is like, okay, if Monty's kind of banged up and you're trying to win a Super Bowl, you know, you might want to play it smart. Like you can play him, but only do his like smaller percentage of snaps and lean on Gibbs a little bit more. Like that's why you have both of them.
Yeah, they have Green Bay the following week too, which is, you know, in the NFC North, like
it's a big
massive divisional game. So yeah, kind of milking it for Tennessee is probably not necessary. Gibbs will get the job done.
Keegan, who's speaking your language here in tier 3?
Yeah, I'm also like imagining a Jordan Mason bounce back week. You know, how could it not? This Dallas defense has been so putrid. I mean, they got absolutely gashed by Detroit by both running backs there. Love the Javonte call out. Love his ranking this week. I want people to realize that Sean's ranking on Alvin Kamara, like even though it's 4 spots below ECR, is like very valid. Look, they're not going to get to the red zone a lot unless Spencer Rattler just like flips a switch, which I've seen him do in college a couple times. Like there are a couple games in Spencer Rattler's bag where you're like, there was a reason why at one point he was like almost a top 15 prospect for the NFL draft. There's also a reason he fell to where he did. So you're kind of like banking on the Jekyll Hyde effect of Spencer Rattler. The target share will be there. The dump offs will be there for Alvin Kamara, but I just don't know how he scores a touchdown against this LA Chargers defense unless like that he hits home on an explosive play. Like it's a brutal spot for one of the best roles in fantasy football this week.
I've got some news to break to you guys. This is a Taysom game.
Oh God, I thought like someone was hurt.
Yes,
I was like,
it is.
I thought you were giving me like real breaking news here.
No. Taysom's gonna play. Rattler's gonna be the starter. If you need help at tight end this week, boys, Taysom's gonna get the quarterback snaps, like a decent amount of them this week.
I wouldn't doubt it.
And when that happens, we know Kamara owners, if you've owned him in the past, whenever the Book of Mormon comes on the field, in the red zone in particular.
Get ready to lose your shit. Yeah.
Get ready to scream. I think it's a huge Taysom game. That's my read.
Yeah,
I might be firing up
this tier other than definitely start all of these guys. It sucks
Yeah,
for
all
Chuba.
startable.
I would love to have him starting as a week because, look, he leads all running backs in touches with 105, and he's ranking third in snap share over the last 2 weeks. He's also top 7 in both fantasy points per game and expected fantasy points per game since week 3, which is the Dalton stretch. But no more Dalton. It's sad to see. Look how they massacred my boy.
Denver. Yeah, and it was Dalton got in a car accident. That's the only reason he's getting benched, which is crazy. I will also say Tajay is potentially going to practice this week, so Tony Pollard managers keep that in mind. It shouldn't affect you too much, but something to keep in mind.
It'll matter.
And then I wanted to talk the Cardinals offense, but we're going to talk Cardinals offense on the receivers. I think that's more pertinent. Yeah. Got 2 more tiers to go here. We have one where you can probably start these guys, and the last one is kind of the waiver wire tier. Tier 4, running backs, 26 to 35. I've got both the Bucks guys, Sade White, Bucky Irving, back to back. I got Chase Brown, Najee Harris, Rhamondre Stevenson,
all the names in this list.
Rico Dowdle, Alexander Mattison, Austin Ekeler, Zach Moss, Jaylen Warren. Okay, so some guys we're calling out here. Rachaad White. He actually looks really good in this new role. It's like, hey, maybe we don't need to give him 300 touches. Maybe we just have him be a compliment to Bucky, and he's good. Like, he actually looked really good.
Worked well with the two of them.
Yeah, I think that's pretty clear. No issue with Sean Tucker here, but it's Sade and Bucky. Bucky's going to be the better rusher, and Sade is going to be
Sean Tucker.
Bucky Irving popped up with a toe injury today, so monitor that if you're a Bucky owner. And also, we all know that Chris Godwin's not playing, and Mike Evans is not going to play either. So we're looking at a passing corpse of K. Dot and Sterling Shepard and Jalen McMillions. So what does that tell me? Sade
is going to get peppered. Yeah. Same with Tony Pollard. Now that DeAndre Hopkins is out, Tony Pollard and Tajay are going to see way more targets. Great call out, Keegan. Other guys in this tier, I'm a little down on Najee because Jaylen Warren, the usage with Russie, top 10 usage.
We got to stop saying this Russie thing.
It's pretty funny.
Hate it.
It's pretty funny.
It's hilarious.
Calling him Russie is kind of making him more likable to me. They call him Russie all offseason, and he comes out looks like prime Russell Wilson. Oh, he played the Jets
let's be honest.
Oh, okay.
He didn't look like prime Russell Wilson. He threw a couple prayer moon balls. Freiermuth had a one-handed catch. Pickens with a juggle. Let's be real here. That was not prime Russie.
That kind of was.
He dirted a pass behind the line of scrimmage. Come on. Let's be real here.
Hey, I don't want to do arguing semantics. Right, he still had like 27 fantasy points.
I don't want to do this right now.
Yeah, let's talk Najee a little bit.
Let's talk Najee. Are you into Najee? Because you've been a Najee backer. Are you worried about this Warren? Because the Warren usage was top 10 last week. That's concerning.
But I think what's encouraging is like they both looked good, which is what worked last year. He's coming off back-to-back games with 100 yards. Like, there's no reason why they can't coexist. This was happening last year. We know Warren's going to be more the pass catcher. Najee will get, 1, 2, maybe 3 a game if you're lucky. But there's no reason that against this New York Jets offense, he can't rush for another 100 yards. This is a team that's like borderline quitting. It feels like we're just about at that point in the season where it's starting to get cold and that team's beginning to quit a little bit. So, yeah, it's
not Dexter Lawrence, but yeah, I mean.
I like this matchup for him. Where he's ranked, like, I would fire him up a little higher. I know you're a little lower than expert consensus rankings. I like him as a pretty firm RB2 again. 2 really good weeks in a row, and I think Warren only helps him. I think it's nice that they kind of keep each other fresh personally.
Other call-outs, Chase Brown is taking over as the 1A, but Zach Moss is still involved. It's kind of a poo-poo platter. I also think Zach Moss is still kind of hurt. He did not miss any time with that ankle and foot injury, so I think that's worth calling out. And then Alexander Mattison's basically Temu, Kareem Hunt. So you can probably play him. Like, it's not great, but he's like 5 yards and scores touchdowns.
An awesome week, bro. He had like 130 yards.
Tell you how many leagues I dropped him in.
I do not want to start any running back against Spags. So.
Oh, man. But, dude.
Before we get to the last tier.
I would kill for Alexander Mattison.
That's so bad.
In multiple leagues. Bad. I would literally. I'm starting Roshan Johnson in the league right now. But
he's going to score. That's a good start.
Yeah, he plays with Swifty.
I know we briefly talked about this with Moss and Chase Brown, but this is the second consecutive game where Chase Brown's outsnapped Moss. I mean, 60.4% to 47.2% for Chase versus Moss. He also ran more routes than him for the first time all season, took 100% of the red zone carries. And the Bengals had 1 carry inside the 20-yard line last week, and it went to Chase Brown. 15 carries and Moss is 6. I think the explosiveness is starting to pop for Chase Brown too. Like, he's not a perfect running back, which is kind of what we said in the beginning of the season, like going into draft season. He's not super efficient, but if he does have a little bit of space, he is
Boomer
really
bust.
It's very poppy on the screen, and it looks good. He's got the 4th most missed forced tackles per attempt among qualifying RPs this year. So you kind of got to live with what's happening if you're a Moss owner. Chase Brown is definitely emerging and taking that role on. I think he's a pretty decent start this week. I know it's Philadelphia, but I like that play. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game.
I've got these guys back-to-back in the rankings. Would you rather start Zach Moss or Jaylen Warren this week?
Well, sorry. That's Jaylen Warren. Yeah,
Jaylen Warren. I think I'm going Warren here, fellas.
It feels like guys trending in opposite directions right now.
Live ranking change.
Yeah. I mean, they're basically the same.
I thought the question was the Cincinnati guys. I had to stop.
No, it's got to be
Chase
Brown
over Moss.
Yeah, and I was
got to be
Brown
over
for
Moss.
that.
Yeah, you can't fight the coaching staff, and also I think Moss is hurt, so
I think that
doesn't help. All right, last tier here, 36 to 45. We're talking your stashes and your waiver wire guys. Tyron Tracy, Raheem Mostert, Roschon Johnson, Devin Singletary, Tyler Algier, Ray Davis, Justice Hill, Tyjae Spears, Kamani Vidal, Nick Chubb, Zach Charbonnet.
Brutal
dudes
here.
I mean,
Nick Chubb actually.
Oh, I totally dropped the ball on Nick Chubb.
Yeah,
he needs to be higher.
Yeah, I was like, what
he needs to be higher. Okay, Nick Chubb needs to be in this RB30 range. He's for sure the most startable guy here.
Yeah,
it's not a great matchup, but
gold at the last tier here.
It's not a great matchup, but I have his projection here at 12, which is kind of like that low end RB2 is where I've got him. Usage was pretty good.
To see that offense with Jameis, personally. So I think it's going to be significantly better. I'm sure we've got a couple of guys on our wide receivers we'll talk about in the next episode, but I'm actually really excited. I think it's kind of needle up for everyone with not only Amari leaving, but the bad man finally injured and gone from our team.
I know it's not the same Nick Chubb, and he didn't really get to play them last year, but in 2022, he had 2 games against the Ravens where he had 91 rush yards on 16 attempts and then 99 rush yards on 21 attempts, basically averaged a little over 5 yards a carry in those games. He did have 1 touchdown in those 2 matchups. So, I mean, he's borderline averaging 100 yards and a half a touchdown against them. So I think Chubb can still play. I mean, I said he wasn't going to play at all this year. I can't believe he's on the fucking field.
Just got to tip the cap, man. What a story. And I think he's more than
I see.
Yeah, I was wrong. I was kind of hoping no one would catch that.
Unreal.
I really was hoping no one would catch that, but here we are.
Too good, man.
Here we are.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a tough tier though. You've got to just hope touchdown or bust from a lot of these guys. Justice Hill has a little PPR upside. Tajay, if he plays, has some PPR upside in a negative game script. But Roschon, Mostert,
you could play him. You could play Roschon.
You're kind of just open for a touchdown. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good matchup against Washington for Roschon.
Yeah.
And Ray Davis is playable. I think he got that garbage time touchdown, but Seattle's beatable. And I mean, Tajay probably got dropped in a lot of leagues. I would go pick him up, man. He's a really good player. It's been a weird run out for him, but he is still #year 2. So got to keep the faith. All right, fellas. That is it for the top 46 running backs. Last time we'll talk about running backs as a non-married man. So it's exhilarating to finish up here with Kamani Vidal, but
guest speaker Rachaad White at your wedding, right?
Sade. There's a new Sade in town, and we're going to talk about him in the wide receiver episode. All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Until next time.